Hello and welcome to the Graitec BIM Up Global Digital Conference. Welcome to my class. This one is 20 roofs in 20 minutes, or we will try. So a little bit about myself. My name is James Parsons-Moore. I'm an architectural technician by trade with over 20 years industry experience. Over 11 years in the Autodesk channel working with Autodesk software. And I've been working for Graitec now for a little over 3 years. Got extensive experience working within the building information modeling environment, and I specialize in helping our customers work better in more efficient ways. A little bit about Graitec and the 4 pillars of Graitec BIM Up. So first we've got Graitec Design. With this we work with BIM designs using Autodesk products enhanced with the Graitec Power Packs. We've got Graitec Simulate, using your BIM model data to simulate your designs for use in the real world, with market-leading Graitec technologies. There's Graitec Fabricate, taking BIM deliverables through to the finished fabricated product and site delivery. And then Graitec Manage, managing all of your company work in progress data and intellectual property before collaborating with an external CDE. This presentation and the following demonstration will look at the modelling tools within Revit and how we can apply them to creating different roof forms. Concluding the presentation, you will understand different roof forms and their associated names, roof form modelling tools within Revit, and how to apply the roof tools to different forms. The roof forms we're going to learn, and there's a mouthful for you, but hipped, half hip, gable, Dutch barn, valleys, M shape, butterfly, skillion and lean-to, mansard, gambrel, dormer, eyelid dormer, flat roofs, flat tapered to a point using tapered insulation, flat falling in one direction using furrings, organic roofs, hyperbolic paraboloids. Yes, I didn't know what that was before I started learning how to do all of this. Softbox, dropped eaves, and curved ridge roofs. Let's have a little tour of those in case you don't know what I mean. So a hipped roof, I think we're all fairly familiar with this. I tried to put a few images in here for each of these. A half hip, so you can see it's half gable sometimes called as well. The gable roof, fairly traditional in the UK, that's for sure. We have Dutch gables, valley roofs, so it's hips and valleys in this, so we've got separate ridges, all part of the same roof construction. We've got an M-shaped roof, I wonder why it's called that. A butterfly roof, an offset butterfly roof as well. A skillion and lean-to. The mansard. Gambrel roofs, these are quite common in America. A dormer roof, where we've got a room in the roof situation going on. We've got an eyelid dormer. Now, the official name for this isn't necessarily an eyelid dormer, but it's the one that I've heard used most commonly. We've got flat roofs, and then we have flat roofs tapered to a point for drainage purposes. And then we have flat roofs falling in one direction. As you can see here, this one's done using furrings laid on top of the joists. We have a hyperbolic paraboloid. Yes, that is a hyperbolic paraboloid. A softbox. A dropped eaves, as you can see there with the room in the roof above the garage. And then we have a curved ridge, which is quite a complicated one. And then we're going to look at some slightly more organic shapes as well. So straight into the demonstration, I will give you a talk through as we're doing it, and we'll see how close we get to 20 minutes. There's a lot of work to do here. So let's start. So first things first, we're going to zoom in. We're going to have a look at the hip roof. We're going to go to the roof by footprint tool, and we're basically just going to use the pick walls, make sure my settings are okay, make sure my overhang's fine. I'm going to pick all of the walls around my footprint and then click tick. It's the easiest one to do. Now, as you can see in this, I have pre-made all of my footprints to try and save time. So in this one, I'm just simply going to pick the front and rear, and then in the properties where it says place offset from base, we're going to give that a height, which basically means the wall plate will be higher than the rest of it. We've got a gable roof, and again, it's a very similar layout to what we've done so far. but the front and rear, we are simply going to remove where it says defines roof slope. And you can do that either in your properties or on your information bar. Now, we've done those. Let's have a look at it in 3D and see what they're starting to look like. You'll see I've used a distinct colour for the roof here so that we can differentiate what it is from the actual main part of the building. And just here, all I'm doing is attaching my walls at the front and rear up to my roof to make it a closed area. Let's go back to the roof plan. Now this one, we're going to do a Dutch barn. So to do this, we don't do it in one part. We're going to do it in 3 different parts. We're going to create the center. And we're just going to pick lines. I've put some reference planes in here so it's easy to pick them. And it means I can move the reference planes later on if I lock those lines onto it. A little trouble with the trim tool there. Once I've done that, I'm going to remove the slope definition to the front and rear, creating basically a mini gable in there. I've finished that and now I'm going to go back into the roof tool to add a new roof to the rear of the building. I use the pick walls and then I've picked line to match the edge of my other roof. All I'm going to do then is that adjacent edge, I'm going to remove the slope definition. That will then mean it slopes up and stops at that point. I'm then simply going to mirror that across my roof. I'm going to flick to 3D so you can see what that looks like. Perfect. So it is in 3 different parts, but what we can do using the join geometry tool, we can join the roofs together to make it look like one seamless roof. There we go. Let's go back to our roof plan and a valley roof. Now doing this again is very similar to what we've done so far. I can hit tab at this point and select all of my walls because they're all joined up. Now basically because of each line will slope perpendicular into the middle of the sketch, once you complete it, it will form a valley and hip roof really easy. It's one of the easiest things to do. Now let's go into an end shape. So to do this, I'm going to go into an elevation. I've preset some reference planes for the front and rear. Because we're going to be using a different tool, we're going to be using the roof by extrusion tool. To do this, I'm simply going to set the front of my M-type roof as my reference plane to work on. I'm going to tell it what reference level I want the roof to be associated to. And then using the sketch tools, I am simply going to sketch the upper edge of my roof to create the form. So I'm going to do one side of it, and then I'm going to mirror that across so it's the same on both sides. As you can see, that's forming an M. It will then apply the roof construction that you've created to it. I'm just going to nudge that up a little bit, like that. So a quick look in 3D. Now, when you do a roof by extrusion, what it does, it sends the rear of the extrusion to the end of the geometry that you've created. So it's a little bit random in this one. See how it's gone backwards. I'm going to give that a positive figure and you'll see what it does. So you can send it that way. If you know the depth that you want it to be, you could type it in there. But I've prepared this with a reference plane which I can snap to and lock as well. That way, if I move the reference plane, that overhang will move with it. So let's look at the butterfly roof now. So let's just attach this. I've got OCD when it comes to these things and leaving them open and drafty. So again, it's very, very similar. It's still the same reference plane. I've called it M-shaped front just because we've got a lot of roofs all in a row here. And this time using the roof by extrusion, I'm simply going to set my lines like this. So this is a butterfly. It's obviously a butterfly with one wing longer than the other wing. So you could do it to the center and mirror it as well, but because we've already mirrored it, I thought that'd be easy. So I'm just going to put a dimension on here, an angle dimension. Oh, I've clicked the wrong dimension there. So I'm just going to pick the angular dimension and set a dimension there and set a dimension for this side as well. If I pick that line, I can then change that dimension. It will keep the center point, so the pivot point, the same, but it will actually change the dimension of that line, as you can see. If I finish that sketch, I can then go back into it and edit it, and you'll see those are still there, so you can go back in and change it retrospectively. But there we have our butterfly roof. And again, just like it did with our M shape, it has extended it in the wrong direction, but it's okay, we can fix it. I'm going to lock it to that reference plane. There we go. You might notice I've just put some ambient shading in that roof plan as well, just to kind of give it a little bit of depth. I'm just going to take all those walls up to my roof as well, make it look nicer. And because I just can't leave it like this, I'm going to attach that up to the roof there. Okay. Now, a skillion and lean-to. So this is 2 roofs. We're going to do a roof by footprint over this side. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the slope definition on all of them. Now we can do this pitch in several ways, but the way I'm going to do it here is by putting a slope arrow in from the bottom to the top of where I'm going to pitch it to. That slope arrow, we can set the slope in a couple of different ways. We can say height to tail. And what that will do, it will give you a difference in height at the tip to the tail. Or I can just change the slope. That way, we can just tell it what slope it's going to be, and it will pitch it. Let's have a look at that. See, that's a little bit too steep. So I'm just going to change the pitch on there to like 20 degrees. Have a look, see what that looks like. Fantastic. We've got quite a built-up environment here. I won't fancy living here. So just bear with me on the buildings that are around it. So this time I'm going to do a roof at a different height. I'm going to associate this to my first floor, not the roof level. And again, I'm just going to do the same technique as I did before, but this time the intersecting wall, I'm going to go pick line across the face of that. I could lock that on there as well if I'm being good with it, so in case that wall moves, the geometry will move with it. What I'm doing this time, I'm going to set it slightly different. I'm going to remove the slope definition on 3 of them, leaving a pitch on 1 of them. That way, when I set the slope to whatever it's going to be, I'm just going to use 10 degrees to start off with, see what that looks like. And let's go into our 3D view, see what that looks like. Okay, maybe a little bit shallow. Let's just have a look at changing the design a tiny bit. There we go, it's probably a bit nicer. So we can then set my walls to go up to my roof. You know the story by now, I can't just leave it. Missed it. I couldn't hit tab in this situation at first, so I'll try it again from a different wall. There we go. And now let's look at our mansard roof. It's not my favourite roof to do in this, but there's a simple technique to do it. So again, we're going to do this in 2 roofs. I'm going to use a roof by footprint. I'm going to tell it what roof level it's going to go up to, start at. And then there's a setting in here. Once we've done it, I'm going to set the pitch quite severe actually, because mansard has 2 pitches to it. So the bottom part is going to be 8 degrees. And then here's the key. You can have a cut-off level. So I'm going to tell that cut-off level to be at the roof finish, but 2 meters above. What that would do, that will cut the roof 2 meters above that level, as you can see just there, look. And if I change this level in here to say 1500, oh, 15 is a little bit too small, go 1500, and there we go. So just remember that 1500, and what we're going to do, just change the pitch as well a little bit to see how that looks. Fantastic. So let's go back to our roof plan. And then I'm going to draw my second roof. So under roof plan, I'm just going to change the height that is starting at to, let's turn the cutoff first and then change the height that is starting at 1500. That way I can pick lines, so I can pick these lines. And that's the inner edge of where the roof is cut. So I can do that. I could have, if I was being good, locked it as well. And as you can see, what we have now is 2 roofs. Now, because of the way that it cuts the roof, etc., what we do is we go into a section and we can move the roofs around. Now, with this as well, I could mess around with the way that it's cut between and different roof joist sizes. There would be different sizes with different connections if it was real, but I'm just trying to get the form right. And from the outside, the form is right for a mansard. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. So this one's a gambrel. You quite often see it in American barns in movies. So again, we're going to use roof by extrusion. We'll pick that front face again as the way I'm drawing it on. associated to my roof level, and then draw the outer edge of where I want it to be. So I'm just going to sketch it roughly to start off with. I'm just going to put a kind of little line here to help me as well, so I can find the midpoint. I'm going to pick both of these lines. I'm just going to drag that out. Obviously, I could do this much more accurate measurements, angles, etc. I'm just showing you how to make the form first, and I've only got 20 minutes, which is looking precarious, by the way. So let's just delete that line there after we've mirrored it across. Have a look at the settings and finish. There you go, it's all done. It's got big sideburns on that haircut, so what we're going to do is, first things first, let's just change how far it goes. And also I'm going to change to a square cut to do that. Now that will just cut the bottom of it square as well. I could have done that to my mansard as well. There we go. I'm in a rush now, so I forgot to lock that, but you get the idea. Well, we're halfway through and we're well into our time. So let's have a look. We're going to have to hurry up, I think. So let's have a look at a dormer. So again, we're just going to do a pitch roof on here, first things first, and have a look. Now, I've pre-created some walls in there, but they don't look like they're poking through. Have I got the pitch quite right? Let's just lower the pitch. That hasn't really affected it. Let's just have a look at that in 3D just to see what's going on, I think. There we go, schoolboy error, something I do all the time. Because I put the last roof in at 1500, this one's gone in at 1500. So let's just put that down. It's a mistake that you make when you're doing a lot of roofs all in a row. So let's just put that back at 45. I knew I planned it properly. Here we go. Just go back to our roof plan. That's not going to help my timing on the 20 minutes, is it? So let's go back to my roof plan and create just a roof for this in. I'm just going to check the height of that. Now that's 1800. So I'm just going to put this roof in at 1800 so it sits on top of these walls that I've created. So again, I'm just going to create the form outside like this. I'm just going to draw a line between the back edges. Now I'd just like to drag this forward a little bit as well to make sure that it's sitting proud of my roof, because it helps with the next tool that we're going to put in. I want to make the front and rear of it into gables. And I'm just going to change the slope to 15 because I know it's getting quite close to the ridge. We'll have a look at it in a second. I don't want my walls to join up to it yet. So let's just have a look at this in 3D, see what it's going to look like. I'm going to select it so when we're orbiting around it, it centers on that instead. Now 15 degrees, it looks like we can go a little bit higher than that. So I'm just going to change that to 20 degrees. There we go. Now that's looking all good. So what I need to do now is simply connect that roof to my other roof. So if I highlight it, on my geometry tab under my modified tools, we have join roof geometry. So I pick the back edge of my little roof and tell it to connect into my main roof, and that'll filter it together, miter it together, sorry. And I'm going to attach that wall up to there. Obviously, we've cut an opening in there using the opening tools, but I'm not going to show you that just now because we're in a rush. Okay, next we've got an eyelid dormer. Like I say, controversial name for this one. If you've got really, really kind of square eyelids, I have seen plenty of videos and pictures on the internet of women with these type of eyebrows. So it seems to be in fashion, so we kept it as eyelid. So I've created the boundary. I've split that line and I've moved it back to equal parts, just drawing lines between them just here. Now I need 4 separate lines here. I'm just going to take the slope definition of those lines. I want to give it a different slope definition. Instead of sloping perpendicular to it, I want it to slope up the lines. That's a slope arrow. So there we go. We have a slope arrow going up. Again, I can change the settings. If I change the slope, it will change with the rest of the roof if I change the pitch of it. So that's what I like to do. I've done one, and then I'm just going to mirror that across the button and mirror that across. There we go. Once I've done that, green tick finished. There we go. We have our little eyelid dormer in there. Oh, here we go. Did the same mistake again. You'd think I'd learn. There we go. And we can just attach that wall up to the underside of there. Fantastic. Right, now let's look at the next one. So we're going to look at our flat roofs now. We've got 3 different flat roofs. We've just got a basic flat roof that we'll do first. So we're just going to set the boundary using roof by footprint, same as we've done before. And then I'm simply just going to take the footprint off the rest of my, the slope definition off of all of my roofs. So lines associated to it. Let's have a look, just make sure. You see there's no slope involved there. Fantastic, whereas we've got a slope on there. Let's have a look at tapered to a point. So again, same tool. We're going to use roof by footprint, and we're just going to apply it around the sides. We're going to take the slope definition off of all of these. Fantastic. Oh, look, I've noticed this time that I need to actually remove that height. I'm probably going to have to go back and do it to my other roof as well. This time I'm going to highlight the roof and add a point to it in the shape editing tools. I can then modify the sub-elements and tell that point to go down 150 millimeters. What that will then do, that will slope down to that point in all directions. And if you can see here, it's going to slope down at different pitches, like so. And then last but not least, let's put our flat roof in again, same technique as before. Remove the slope. And then once we've done that, again, I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to modify sub-elements. But this time I'm just going to pick that edge, and I can tell that entire edge to go down by, say, 100 mil. Once I've done that, let's just do a quick test. Put a slope arrow. Oh, missed it. Slope arrow, and then see that slope in there like so. There we go. Now let's go to a section cutting through them. As you can see, I've made a slight mistake there. My roof is quite high. But before I've done that, I'm just going to go back to this section that I've already created and just drag it short of the roofs in the background. It's getting a little bit cluttered in there. There we go. So yeah, you didn't see that mistake. I didn't see it. So we're just going to lower that down. Perfect. Right, so as you can see here, one roof slopes down to one side and the other roof cranks down to the middle to that point. So I'm going to show you a little technique on changing this. So I've created some roofs in here beforehand. So one of them, this is the roof with furrings, and this is a roof that is tapered insulation in here as well. Can you see how they've changed? Now with this one, you see, the joist will remain flat, and then the layer above it, called furrings, will filter down, so I miter down. So the reason it's done that is because I've made that layer variable. It's a really good technique for doing these roofs. And likewise, in the roof down to a point, I've done that with the insulation layer because we're using a firmer taper system. Okay, so hyperbolic paraboloid, here we go. Easier for you to say. So I'm just going to put a roof on here. I'm going to turn it into a flat roof. Simple. Once we've done that, it's actually quite simple to do. We can take this point up, say, 1.5 meters. It's going to tell us that it's a little bit strange in shape. But now, here we go. Take that side at 1.5 meters. And it's as simple as that. Now, long ago, I tried doing this and ended up creating a mass and a roof by face. But actually, using these tools, it's really quite easy. Look. Okay. So let's do a softbox. So to do this, I'm going to create a roof by footprint. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the slope definition off the front and back, and then tell the one side of it to have a plate offset from base as lower. Now I could go a whole story down. It doesn't matter. It depends on the height. What that will do, the wall plate on that side will then be lower, offsetting the ridge. Have a look at that. As you can see, just like this. Oh, one of my colleagues here trying to contact me. So I'll just turn that off. Sorry, Kevin. Okay, so let's have a look at this next roof. So, oh, I must have just moved the salt box accidentally. Let's just undo to move that back. There we go. So a dropped eave. So this is where I did, it's a little bit like where you've got a roof over the garage that continues the slope down. So this time I'm going to show you a little bit of trial and error on it because you're bound to make mistakes when you did it. I know I did when I first learned how to do this. So I've created partial roof, and then I'm just going to create another area of the roof here. Oh, keep picking the wrong button. There you go. That's what happens when you're trying to do things fast. So I'm going to take the slope definition off of these lines here. Now I'm going to make a deliberate mistake here. I'm going to finish that, see what happens. Oh my life, that's gone crazy because of the way that the slopes go. I don't know if you get planning permission for that. So let's have a little look at what we're doing here. Sometimes I simply like to split this line just here. And if I remove that line and go down from here to this point just here, I'll just do that and trim it together. It's going to be easier. And then remove the slope definition from those, watch what happens. Basically, we will have a hip which will then slope down. Perfect. But let's just say we wanted a gable that slopes down. We'll just go back into it. We can remove the slope definition from there and finish that, and then you'll have that situation. Perfect. Now the hardest one, in some ways, it's not hard to do once you know how to do it, but a customer of mine asked me if I could do this once, and it was a struggle. They just couldn't get to do it in one piece. So what I did is I very simply modelled it into two pieces with two mono-pitched roofs. So if you just create it for half of it, remove the slope definition off of these three lines here, so the gables and the ridge, like that, that will slope up to the ridge in a curve. You can then go back in it and do the other side as well. And then we'll trim that up. And we'll take the slope definition off. Oh, I missed that when I was trimming, so I'll just go back in it and trim it up now. There we go, and we'll green tick that. Let's have a little look at that in 3D. As you can see, the ridge follows the curve around very nice. While we're here, OCD is kicking in. Oh, I've moved it again. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm just going to move those walls. So move those walls up to there. Perfect. Let's do these ones as well. You see it's only done it to half of it, so I'll then do the other half as well. It's going to tell me it's missing some of the roofs. Of course it is. That wall isn't doing on that side. I'm just doing it quick. Last but not least, the profiled roof, the organic looking roof. And again, I get questions on this sort of stuff all the time. And I had a customer once ask me, in fact, I trained them Revit, and then about 5 years later, I went to see them, and they weren't using it. It's because they were using quite organic shapes in their designs. So they showed me a project they were working on where it had a really organic, flowy roof. And I said, why aren't you using Revit? They said, well, it just doesn't suit the designs that I'm doing. So I showed them this tool. So basically what I'm doing, I'm actually creating a mass in place. So what I'm doing is I've set profiles up along my roof, okay? And I can set the profile that I'm working on quite easily. Let me just go back to the section that I was on. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. And there we go. So I've just set in here that I'm going to work on the front plane first. And all I'm going to do, I'm just checking that, there we go. And all I'm going to do is just draw a shape of the first profile that I'm going to draw. I'm going to keep it fairly simple, just because of time constraints. And there we go, just keep it nice and simple, like a mono pitch. I'm just going to check to see, as you can see, that's drawn on that front plane, just there. Going to my roof plan, you'll see the reference planes of the different planes I've drawn. I've named all of them as well to make life easier. That way, when I finish that one, if I go set, I can go number 1. That's my next plane. I could have obviously numbered them slightly different. And this time I'm just going to draw an ever so slightly different profile. It's going to be the same, but slightly different. I find that this works better when you do subtle differences between them. If you have big jumps between them, it can go a little bit funny. Okay, and we can just check that that's there. Like everything that I do when I'm creating something methodically inside Revit, I like to check as I'm going along. There we go, number 2. I'm just going to skip this across here just a little bit more so that we've got the rest of the profiles. And because I think I've gone over 20 minutes, it's cheating, I know, but there you go. We've got all the different profiles just there. What I can do then inside the masking tool, if I select all of those, I can create a form from them like so. There we go. Once I've finished that, we are good to go on our roof. So we go into our roof tool. The last one we're going to do is roof by face. This is a full Revit tool. So I'm going to choose the roof construction I want to do, select the face, and create roof onto it. Now I'm just going to delete the mass in this case so you can see the roof better, but I would keep that there in case I want to change the geometry later on. I'm just going to tell that to go up to it. Wonderful, there you go. There are all our roofs. We've gone over a little bit, not quite. I know it was optimistic. I've got to finish this one because my OCD's kicked in. But there we go, all finished. So it's question time. Thank you very much.